It's not a new fact that about 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by women. In fact, there's women that love divorce so much that they build a career out of helping other women get divorced. And I'll show you what it looks like in this TikTok clip right here.
If you are an unhappily married woman who secretly contemplates divorce, this video is for you. And if you're not an unhappily married woman who contemplates divorce, I need you to watch it anyways. Maybe this will help you in the future, or maybe you know someone who needs to see this video and who you can share it with. Today would be my wedding anniversary, but instead I have been divorced for 6 years. I am the biggest fan of divorce. Can't advocate enough for it, and so I wanted to share some things with you that might be happening that are signs that it is time to get divorced. I once asked an older former coworker of mine who had been divorced how I would know it was time to get divorced, and she told me that when you're asking people how to know when it's time to get divorced, then it's time to get divorced. And so that's the first one. If you are asking people when to get divorced, it's time. But here are some other signs that it's time as well.
You'll notice how she says this is for women that are unhappily married. But that becomes very vague and unclear because a lot of women will rely on their marriage for their happiness. They don't look at themselves what they're doing. So what will happen is she'll get unhappy and blame it on the marriage and decide to get a divorce. Also, now we have 9 categories of abuse that justify a divorce. And it used to be if you were actually treated badly as a male or a female, you would get a divorce because it made sense. It was not, I'm bored, I'm unhappy, I'm upset you didn't fill the dishwasher, you don't do your own laundry. Now we have women openly advocating for divorce on the basis of boredom and unhappiness.
Let's start with the one that I hope is the most obvious. If your husband or spouse, partner, whatever, is abusive in any way, shape, or form, there are like 9 different types of abuse: financial, physical, mental, all of that. If they are abusive in any category, it is time to get divorced. Aside from that, if you are Googling divorce laws in your state, it's time to get divorced. If you find yourself wishing that they would just randomly die, time to get divorced. If you are lying to your friends and family about how they treat you so that they aren't hated, time to get divorced. If you question whether you're the problem, then it's time to get divorced. If you find yourself saying he's not always like this or they're not always like this, time to get divorced. If you find yourself pretending to be asleep so that you can avoid them, time to get divorced. If you have any signs of PTSD or anxiety, wondering when they come back, if you're hearing footsteps and you wonder if it's them, if you are, hearing a car drive by and you're wondering if it's them, time to get divorced. If you just know that your life will be exponentially easier and lighter and more enjoyable without them, then it's time to get divorced. And if you're staying because you're afraid of the logistics of getting divorced, if that sounds overwhelming to you, then it's time to get divorced. If you have stopped dreaming and you're saddened by the idea that your life may forever be the way that it is right now and things may never change, then it's time to get divorced.
The part where she says, if you think you're the problem, go get divorced, that just takes away all the responsibility on the woman. Now, obviously, women and men can do whatever they want. If they want to get divorced, I'm not saying not to get divorced. But it's interesting how all the responsibility is put on the guy when women get divorced, and how she's never the problem. And when I hear things like that, it doesn't surprise me when every time you see a divorce happening, it's always, what did the guy do? It's never, what did the woman do? And that's just because, in general, a lot of women are just taught to not take any responsibility. Now that's the first video, but when I found this video, I discovered that this video is part of a 3-part series, all on reasons to get divorced. So let's look at part 2 here. It just gets crazier.
This video is for the women who are unhappily married and spend their time secretly thinking about wanting a divorce. If that's you, this is the video for you. This is part 2 of things you might be thinking that are a sign that it's probably time for you to get a divorce. And that's about the kindest way I'm going to say it, because I actually think it's 100% time for you to get a divorce. If you're thinking about it, that should be reason enough. But nonetheless, here are some more. If you didn't see part 1, go back to that one. But as always, we're going to start with the same thing, because if you didn't see part 1, you need to know if you're being abused in any way, shape, or form, it's 100% time to get a divorce. Now that we have that one out of the way, some new ones. If you fantasize about living alone, it's time to get a divorce. If you think that it would be easier to do everything on your own, then it's time to get a divorce. If it's easier for you to do everything on your own than to ask your spouse for help, it's time to get a divorce.
Yeah, at this point, she's just telling women to get divorced. It doesn't matter if you're happy, unhappy, doing good, not doing good. This is just women keeping other women single, and this is how it looks on social media.
If you would rather be at home alone than at home with your spouse, time to get a divorce. If every time they open their mouth, you immediately think, my God, would you just shut up? Then it's probably time to get a divorce. And if you can't stand to look at them and you wonder how the F you ever ended up with this person who's standing in front of you and is absolutely disgusting and just makes you want to go, ugh, it's time to get a divorce. If you are terrified that your hypothetical or real daughter would ever end up with a guy like him, then it's time to get a divorce. And if you're also worried that your hypothetical or real son would act like him, time to get a divorce. Now, we already talked about if you randomly wish that they would die, but also if you randomly wish that you would die so you don't have to deal with them anymore, it's time to get a divorce. It's not worth it.
Unfortunately, a lot of times what I see is that men will be more responsible and stay in marriages for kids, while women will do the opposite. I'm not saying all women, but I've been seeing it happening more and more.
It is part 3 of Signs It Is Time to Get a Divorce with me, Molly, who has been divorced for 6 years. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, go back and check them out. If you have, then you know that we start each of these with the obvious one, the one I hope is obvious. If you are being abused in any way, shape, or form, it's time to get a divorce. And with that in mind, we are going to start to hop into some categories of ABUSE, and this is the body edition. If any of these things are happening, you are dealing with some sort of abuse. And I just want to let you know, I'm not judging you. I think all but one of these happened in my marriage, and the one that didn't happen in my marriage happened in my most recent relationship, which ended 5 months ago. So, it happens. First up, if your spouse has an ongoing negative perception of your appearance, it is time to get a divorce. If they are policing what, when, or how much you eat, it's time to get a divorce. If they get irrationally upset when you change your hair, or just tell you that they only like women with long hair, women with this, women with that, it's time to get a divorce. If they try to change your makeup routine, either telling you not to wear any or telling you to wear more, it's time to get a divorce. If they have any impact on what you choose to wear, whether it's them telling you what to wear or you choosing it based on what you know is going to cause the least amount of problems, it's time to get a divorce. If they are controlling what you read, watch, or listen to, time to get a divorce. And if they tell you that they're going to leave you if you gain weight, it's also time to get a divorce.
Per the information on this video, it gives a man no freedom to say anything to his wife if he disagrees with it. I mean, when you think about it, let's say he marries a thin brunette that has certain views, certain values, and all of a sudden she decides to dye her hair blue, gets completely different viewpoints, gets fat. Maybe all 3. I think he would have a right to say something about it, or at least be able to voice his disagreements. Anyway, let me know, do you think that these are all valid reasons to get divorced, or are these just excuses for women to be able to be single again and sleep around?